Much like any lore of magic, the dwarf runes are hit or miss. Some are pretty good and others are pretty terrible. And given the fact that casting one dwarf rune will put the rest on cooldown, it's pretty important that you're casting the right ones. So starting off with the Rune of Negation, why is this one so terrible? It gives 40% damage resist, which would make you think it's quite strong, and on top of the 25% magic resist dwarves have, it's 65% spell resist. But here's the big problem. Damage in Warhammer is either extremely low or absolutely devastating. So if you see a brutal spell getting cast on your infantry and you think a Rune of Negation is going to save them, well, I'm here to tell you it's not. It'll take a little bit less damage, but really the main problem is that the spell is overkilling your infantry anyways. And if you take a look at fights between infantry, it's actually the complete opposite. These fights tend to take so long that a bit of extra damage resist, even for half a minute, barely has any impact on the fight. And that's really the problem with these damage resist spells. Your dwarves have to be in a pretty bad situation for them to be worth it. But how about the Rune of Oath and Steel? It lasts much longer than the Rune of Negation, and it hits in an AoE. This means it could potentially cover your entire front line, so why do I think this rune is terrible? Units with no or very little armor will barely benefit from this. Something like Slayers will go from taking 100% damage to about 78% damage. This might actually seem pretty good, but Slayers don't want to be taking damage in the first place. So for this to do well on low armor targets, you need to be playing badly. And obviously that's something you want to avoid. But now you might be thinking, aha, high armor units do want to be sitting in combat, so this should work a lot better with them. And to that, I say absolutely not. If you have a high armored unit fighting against a unit without a lot of armor piercing, they're going to be holding the line for minutes at a time. And that means that the 44-second duration makes up just a fraction of the time the unit actually spends fighting. It's a spell you want to avoid if you have access to other ones. And this is the point where we arrive at the Rune of Speed. For 18 seconds, you get a decent amount of melee attack bonus and extra speed. You can overcast to nearly double the duration. But as we talked about earlier, fights last a really long amount of time. And even Hammerers, one of the highest DPS dwarf units in the roster, will have a hard time showing a significant difference even when you overcast the spell. But one thing I didn't really go over in this video is the speed effect that comes with the Rune of Speed. If you want to see a complete rundown on the effects of speed bonuses and speed debuffs, you should check out the video in the bottom right. And if you want to know why the other runes are much better than the ones I showed, check out the video in the top right.